although there were certain things I was really good at, and it's always, you was good at the things that you enjoy. So maths and languages, they were the two things for me that I really enjoyed. I think maybe it's the relevance of it, you know, maths, you've always got to learn how to split a bill at some point or work out your finances. And languages I loved. I'd always had the benefit of traveling as a child. And I always, you know, wanted to be able to communicate somehow. So I could see that relevance. And I think, you know, there may have been a sliding doors moment, but no, I don't think I would, definitely not an academic, but definitely totally motivated and inspired by those two more practical topics, I think. Well, it was one of those interesting things 30 odd years ago, careers guidance wasn't really there. And I remember filling in a paper questionnaire because it was before the world of Tinterweb. And I remember, you know, getting to the boxes, and as I got to the armed forces, the 3 services, I found myself thinking, oh, that could be interesting. And then several weeks later, there was a careers fair in the gym. And as I was walking around, the RAF were there, and I started having a chat to them. And it's that whole serendipitous thing, isn't it, you know? And I was doing A-levels, and I wasn't motivated or inspired. And I was done with education in that respect. And I thought I wanted to do something. I wanted the adventure, you know? And I remember going in past all the qualifications for the RAF, and then I just was interested, and I thought I just wanted to just check, you know, it's that fear of missing out. So I went up to the Royal Navy Careers Office in Liverpool, and they just started taking the mick out of me, to be honest. And I thought, yes, this will do for me. And there was something about it. It's the senior service. It's got that real sense of tradition, and it's got that real sense of pride, you know. And I remember going along, and I just got on with it, and I just felt like I belonged. And it was before the days where we talked about culture, you know, but I just felt like it was a place that I could go. And interestingly enough, you know, when I went on and I joined, I aced my exams. So from not being academic, I'm suddenly getting 100%, because for me, there was that reason to learn. You had to learn about the rank structure. You had to learn about the rules and the cultures and all that, you know. And I literally flew, or sailed, should I say. It's really interesting, because I always think that I was 1%. So I was a Wren for 3 years, and I went through the ranks then and became an officer. So I became from 4% in the population as a female to 1% as a female officer. But I don't think I was ever treated any differently for being a woman, but I was for being Northern. So there was definitely a class thing going on at that time. But yeah, I definitely didn't feel sort of treated any differently. But when it comes to that, you know, it's got a long way to go still, statistically, but I think all the armed forces have made tremendous strides. You know, there's a whole diversity unit now that works specifically across inclusivity across all the armed forces. And I always refer to the forces that as organisations that are so, you know, set in tradition, and, you know, if they can change, if they can move and change the landscape of their culture and how they work, any organisation can. So I always think that, yes, the statistics may not be you know, where we would like, but I think they have made huge strides. And so I think all 3 of the forces were in the recent times best places to work for women as well. So I think, and they're literally, you know, sort of championing that. So I think if they can, anyone can. Oh, it definitely taught me to say yes and work it out later. You know, there was endless opportunities. I mean, so much opportunity that you had. So you had a thing called standing orders that came out every week. That was a paper booklet, and you always would go to the back of it to see, you know, oh, I could volunteer for Wimbledon. Oh, I could go underground potholing, which I did. I don't know why I did some of this stuff, but you kind of, you have this raft, and you have this gift that, you know, I was definitely, yeah, let me have a go, and, you know, if I don't like it, I won't do it again. But the opportunities that were there, and this was a long time ago, it's now even you know, wider, and especially they work really hard now around, you know, sort of educational qualifications. They're obviously very passionate about sport. So if you're into sport, you know, I know friends who've got qualifications, instructor qualifications for sailing, for basketball, have represented their country at the Olympics. It's amazing. So I definitely learned to sort of say yes. I also learned to I absolutely think this is where my work ethic comes from. I'm not very good at turning off, ever. And I think as being a member of the armed forces, you're always on duty. So I think I definitely learned that, I found it came quite naturally, the discipline. I relished the discipline. I relished that whilst you have that structure, you also have this real opportunity to develop your own style. It's not a cookie cutter. You're not creating sort of armies of replicas. It does create the best of you, an individual. So I think I definitely learnt so much. And I love the advert. It's been around for so long, but I always loved that, I was born in Darlington, but I was made in the Royal Navy. I absolutely just totally subscribe to that. It definitely made me. And I still now keep learning from it. You flash back, you don't sometimes understand the dots and something happens and you think, gosh, I think I learned that resilience, that skill way back many years ago. Well, I think this definitely came from the Royal Navy. So when you're away at sea, you get given additional responsibility. So for a long time, I was the sports officer. So if ever there's an opportunity, you come into port, you end up organising a tri-nation this, or there's a cocktail party, or there's ships visits or stuff like that. So you get involved with this. So you always have these additional responsibilities. So and one of the biggest things was always making sure that the mail was in place, because again, this was before the days of mobile phones and laptops and stuff. So you relied on those. Do you remember those things? You used to write letters and put them in an envelope and post them. But that was one of the jobs, was to make sure that got to whichever port you're at. So because I was constantly, I suppose, joining the dots. You had to make sure people were in the right place, right time. There was the right number of X widgets, whatever that may be. I really thrived on that. I loved that. So when I came out of the Royal Navy, that was absolutely where I wanted to go, into that event space, because again, during my time, I was based at NATO headquarters down in London, and I used to again volunteer for the NATO conferences that they would organise there, and you just got involved, and I liked it. I liked the buzz of being able to bring people together, to make things happen, to create the environment that the best events or meetings that can take place, and that was my motivation for coming out and going, right, this is where I'm going next. Yeah, what was really interesting, so that was the first time I'd ever worked remotely. So it was, I was working down in that there London, so I was commuting down a couple of days a week, but it was that work from home piece. So it was a real different way of working. I'd been headhunted to go and take a role, and one of the roles that we were working on was, what was the legacy of the Olympics going to be 5 years later, because it was very much around hospitality, leisure, travel, tourism, visitor economy sectors. So I loved working with the different sectors and seeing that the difference and the opportunities, but I think that's where I really saw that kind of collaborative working, and how sectors can come together to support each other. So you can learn from hospitality industry, from the rail industry, etc., etc. So it taught me many things. One, which was this remote working, which, obviously we all talk about agile working now and that, but, I spent a lot of time probably working on trains, actually, trains, coffee shops. But again, that cross-sector working and working with remote teams, I thought was really, very, very key actually to what I'm doing now, I think. Well, it was really interesting. So People First was a research-based organisation around the hospitality industry, and Women First was created when the first piece of research came out, which was the Lord Davis report all those years ago, which was looking at the lack of female representation at board level. And I remember going to sort of one of the early events, and what I'd never really thought about going to an event like this, but because it was the organisation I worked for, I went along and supported it. But for me, there was something missing, because there was no men there, and also it was more, there was lots of people talking about what was bad and wrong. And I remember, I think what kindled my interest was actually, I thought, well, what can we do? What's the art of the possible, so to speak? And so my interest came, I think, by me wanting to try and solve something. What could we, if at the time, I think there was only 6% of senior women at board level, whereas in the financial professional services, it was more like 15, 20. And I'm thinking, well, I don't think you know, I'll have a glass of Prosecco with the rest of them, but actually this is not just going to solve, so what can we do? So I ended up getting involved that way, and I ended up very much getting involved initially, sort of the behind the scenes, the event side, because I was thinking, well, actually, if we look differently at what our content is, if we look differently at what we're trying to achieve, then actually we can not just have some good gatherings, but we can really make impact. So I think I was kindled, or my interest was sparked, but I thought that, could I add value? Could I make a difference here? And that's where my journey started, I suppose. It jumped up at me and surprised me, really, because, as I say, it hadn't been anything that I'd ever thought that, oh, I must go and, you know, represent it, because I didn't think it impacted me at the time. Oh, what are those conversations that you have? So I'm in the office and I get this a call put through to me, and this great now friend of mine said, oh, I'm on a couple of boards. I'm on board of Women in Football, Women in Racing, and I'm really interested as to what you're doing with Women First. Is there any chance you might have time, if you're in London, to meet up for a coffee? Okay, we met for coffee, and 45 minutes later we had come up with the idea, or Ruth had come up with the idea that, how would you feel about supporting an event if we were to start looking and creating a TEDx license? And I was like, okay, go back to the Navy, say yes and work out later. And I think during the time that I'd been sort of developing Women First as well, and I have a real passion about giving people a platform and a stage. How do you amplify voices? And I thought, well, actually, this could be a fantastic way, because TED is not just a live event, but you then have that legacy of it, you know, it goes online, and, you know, people are vying for the most, you know, sort of viewers, etc. So it started as, it started a coffee, and ended up sort of, I think, 6-7 months later having this amazing kind of launch event. But again, I still get feedback from those speakers that we gave a platform and stage to, that it transformed them, it transformed their journey, because it wasn't a conversation that they thought they were ever going to be able to share. And that's the beauty of TED. Ideas worth sharing, ideas worth communicating, and we got the chance to spark those. So for me, it was brilliant, and yeah, we've done 5 in total. So I think I'd spent many years on the West Coast mainland, up from Liverpool down to London, and involved, you know, championing for the Government Equalities Office around what was called the Think Act report, was the gender pay gap reporting, and I just remember thinking, well, I wonder what would happen if we had a conversation that wasn't just in London. And obviously it's our capital, that's where, you know, decisions are made. But there was a big festival taking place in Liverpool in 2014 called the International Festival for Business. And I had you know when someone moves on and you suddenly notice people on LinkedIn and you end up having a coffee, catch it, what are you doing now? What are you doing? And we talked about the guy I'd known for many years, and he was heading up this festival. And I think if you're going to do an international festival, I really think we should be talking about gender, because for me it's very much around business and talent. And I think we should bring this as part of the festival. And I'd never done anything outside of London before. Everything I'd done has always been there. And I just thought, well, what would happen if we changed where the dialogue was coming from? So we created an event called Women Inspiring the Economy. It was based on some established reports that were already out, because I wanted it to be fact-based. Brought together some of the most amazing sort of speakers, the president of MasterCard and the vice chairman of KPMG, you know, real great and good, and a real mix of audience. And we had about 250 people, couldn't get any more people in the event. And it was 3 things that happened at that event. One young woman put her hand up to a great mentor of mine and said, I want to work for you. And Lara got off the stage, gave her a business card and said, come and shadow me. And the young Emily was like, oh, okay. And she did. And 3 months later, she came back and set her own business up. I had another young woman I went to college with, young woman, see what I did there. And she sent me a Facebook message a week or so later going, that event changed my life. And I was like, that's a bit full on. Why would you say that? She says, well, you know, I'm in my 40s, my kids are older, they don't need me as much anymore. I thought I'd be doing this till I was 65. And I was like, oh, nobody works like that anymore. And she's in Southport, up on the northwest coast here, up in the north. And I'm like, you're not in outer Mongolia here. You have options, but she just hadn't seen it. And this event had, you know, and it's the power and impact of events like that. And then I was at an event following the research launch of all that had gone on during this festival, and a very senior gentleman had a conversation with me, lovely guy, and then he went, Simone, the problem with women is, and you know, you're going, oh God, this is not going to end well. And they get pregnant and they have babies and you can't recruit or promote them. And I looked around, like when somebody falls and you go, gosh, because I couldn't believe he'd said that out loud in 2014 or whatever it was. And I was fascinated because he was a nice guy, but it became apparent on that moment that he would never listen to me. He would listen to that guy, but actually, and I thought, you know what, it might not be ideal, but I need to collect the good guys because I can influence that behaviour with the good guys, and that's how we extinct the dinosaurs. And those three things really made me go, you know what, I'm going to do something about this, because we've had this very successful event, but that one event's not going to change the world. It actually had impact for some people instantly. And so I created something called Ready for Change, #Northern Power Women. And I had politicians from, as was, 3 main parties. I had some great male leaders. I had a panel of young women actually as well. So a 14-year-old, the woman who set her own business up, and a 17-year-old. And it was a real great mix. But 6 weeks before the event, my co-founder of TEDx contacted me and she went, Simone, you've got 2 brands here. And I said, well, what do you mean? She went, Ready for Change, Northern Power Women. Your social media's gone bananas. And I'm like, well what? I said, oh, I'm keen not to have women in the title because I don't want to exclude men or women from that. So women think, oh, actually, this isn't for me because I think it's that. Or men thinking, well, I'm not, counted in. She said, look at your social. And I'd built my own website because I'm a tech geek. And I had a great woman who was doing some design for me, and she'd done the brand. And I remember messaging her and said, can you just mock up what Northern Power Women had looked like? And within an hour, she sent it back. And I went, oh, okay, it looks quite strong. It looks bold. And I did. Overnight, I changed the brand, and this was 6 weeks before the conference. And overnight, it went from being a conference to a campaign. And that, you know what, that cost me £7.50 to change that brand, and I always think it was the best money I ever spent. But it did, and it seemed to be something that was taken to heart by the North. So, I felt like I've gone in the direction that, sort of the North's taken me. But yeah, it definitely overnight became this, what is now a campaign movement. I've invented more hours in the day. You know what, I'm not the best of the world of balance. I'm not. I absolutely love everything that I do. So I do find it very difficult to kind of, to turn off. But I think what I have done, in particular in the last year, or the last 9 months or so, is started to build a team. So it has been pretty much myself for sort of the first 4 years. And now it's trying to get the right people in to help, to support and grow, make more. It's all about impact for me. It's, we have some great campaigns going on with Northern Power Futures, Northern Power Women, the awards, the podcast, but actually it's trying to make sure, how do we really build and make that impact? So social media is a great thing, bizarrely enough, because it can help you amplify voices. I do believe sometimes like it can be an evil at times, but I try to use it as positive and try and help me use that as a I know it doesn't give me any more time. I have a really supportive husband, so we negotiate. we have to negotiate times, even when we're away. When you're an entrepreneur, you work all the time, and it's not a hero thing. It's just there's a lot to be done in changing the world. Yeah, absolutely. It was totally unexpected. Received the envelope, sat in the car park here of the marina, thinking it was some kind of tax bill or something, or, and then you kind of look at it and stare at it and you go, oh my goodness, and I had a wee chat with my dad in heaven, kind of going, can you believe this? This short northern bird's done okay. And I did, I felt really proud because I know how much that, the amazing supporters and community that we've got have put into this. So I did really felt like it was for everyone, but I really felt that sense of responsibility to kind of accept that. So I chuffed, thrilled to bits, over the moon, and getting to meet Prince William gave me my investiture back in November, and it was wonderful. My first words were, "I'm so excited." I'm thinking, why did I say that? But you could see him like, you know, and then he was like, "So tell me about these Northern Power women then." And it was brilliant because you have that opportunity to have a conversation, 2 minutes or so, with the future king, and he's briefed so well. So he's talking about you and what you're doing, and that was amazing. It was an amazing day, you know. So from first being notified to then the announcement going live to then getting that day, it's magnificent. But I feel even more responsibility now to do more, because, you know, it also opens more opportunities. So have to take them. Goes back to the Navy. Say yes, work it out later.